Number 11, use synthetic division to perform the division. And we've been given x cubed minus x squared plus 4 as our dividend upstairs, divided by x plus 2, our divisor downstairs. And there are two things that we need to take notice of when performing synthetic division. First is, whatever the sign of the constant term in your divisor is, we will be using the opposite when we actually perform the synthetic division. So in this case, with number 11, we have x plus 2, and so we will be using the opposite of a plus 2, which is a minus 2, when we perform the synthetic division. All right, so you always use the opposite of whatever this constant is in the bottom to perform your synthetic division. If this was x minus 2, for example, well, x minus 2 would mean that we would use a positive 2 in our synthetic division. All right, so once we've established what we'll be using on the outside, we can then take a look at our dividend upstairs, and we want to make sure that the dividend is in descending order, meaning from the highest degree to the lowest degree. And we also want to make sure that we're not missing any terms. All right, so look here in number 11, we go from 3 to 2 to 0 to none. So we're missing the term that would have x to the first, which means we have to fill it in before we can start performing our synthetic division. So what I would recommend doing is I would actually rewrite this dividend with the missing term, meaning we will have x cubed minus x squared. Those two things were already given to us, but as we said, we were missing x to the first, so we have to fill it in with a plus 0x to the first, right? And normally we don't use or write this 1 here, but I'll go ahead and leave it just for the sake of showing what it is that we're doing. And then we have our plus 4. All right, so we were again missing this x to the first term in our original dividend, so we had to fill it in before we can start performing the division, the synthetic division. And now we can see we're in descending order of powers, and we go from 3 to 2 to 1 to none, and now we're ready to go. All right, with synthetic division, we are going to be using the coefficients of each term in our dividend. And we're going to, again, fill in from highest to lowest degree. And so we look at our x cubed term. We see that the coefficient is 1, so we fill in 1. We look at our x squared term. We see the coefficient is -1, so we fill in -1. We look at our x to the first term. We see the coefficient is 0, so we fill in 0. And then we have our constant of 4, and so we bring down that 4. Notice that if the coefficient of one of your terms is negative, that sign has to come with it. All right, notice here in the x squared term, it was a -1, and so that negative has to come with the coefficient. All right. Now, when we actually start to perform the synthetic division, no matter what this first number is, it will always come down. So whatever this first number is, we're going to bring down, and then we perform multiplication. We say -2 times +1 gives us -2, and then we add vertically. So -1 plus -2 gives us -3. We multiply again. -2 times -3 is +6. Add vertically again. 0 plus 6 is +6. We multiply again. -2 times +6 is -12. And finally, we'll add for the last time. 4 plus -12 is -8. Now, whatever the last number is here in the bottom is going to be your remainder. So I like to kind of section that off so that I remember that something special is going to happen with this at the end. And here, these three numbers to the left are the answer. This is our quotient, except we're missing our x terms. So what we have to do is we have to fill them in. So we go back to the original dividend that we started with, and we ask ourselves, what was the highest degree of the original dividend here? Well, the highest degree was 3. So what we do is we say 3 was the highest. We subtract 1, which gives us 2, and that tells us what degree we're going to start filling in our answer. So we have x to the second minus 3x plus 6, and then again, this was our remainder, and if you have a remainder, what you do is you put this remainder over the original divisor, so in this case, x plus 2. All right, so let me go through this, how we got these x terms one more time. So we had originally, before we filled anything in, that was a 3, wasn't it? All right, this is what we looked like originally. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, what's the highest degree of the original dividend? In this case, it was a 3. We always reduce the highest dividend by 1 to get the new power that we're going to start with. So in this case, 3 minus 1 was 2, and so that's going to be the power of the first term of our answer. So we went from 3, we dropped 1, so we start at 2, and from 2, we go to 1, and from 1, we go to none. So we have x squared minus 3x plus 6, and then again, if you have a remainder, your remainder will always go over whatever the original divisor was. In this case, x plus 2, so we write negative 8 over x plus 2. All right, be sure that you only write the remainder over this x plus 2. It doesn't go over the whole your whole quotient. It's just this last term of the quotient. All right, so let's go ahead and write this a little cleaner out here to the right. So 1x squared, well, we would normally write that as just x squared minus 3x plus 6 minus 8 over x plus 2. So this is what we are claiming is our final answer. This is our quotient. Now, what you could do, and I would highly recommend you do this, especially on a test, is we can check ourselves using multiplication. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of everything else on the screen except for our answer there. And I'm going to move this up here just a little bit to give us some room. All right, so we're claiming that this is our answer. This is our quotient. So what we can do to check ourselves is we can take our original divisor, x plus 2, and we can multiply that divisor by what we got as our quotient. In this case, x squared minus 3x plus 6. And because we ended up with a remainder in this case, we're going to say plus the remainder, in this case, negative 8. You don't have to worry about the x plus 2 when you're checking your answer. You're just going to put what's upstairs in your remainder. All right, so again, this is how we check ourselves. And what we're going to do is we'll perform this multiplication and then this addition, and if we did everything correct, we should get back to what we started with in our dividend. So let's see if that's in fact what happens. So we're going to say x times x squared gives us x cubed. X times negative 3x is minus 3x squared. X times positive 6 is plus 6x. Positive 2 times x squared is plus 2x squared. 2 times negative 3x is minus 6x. Positive 2 times positive 6 is plus 12. And then we have plus negative 8, which is the same thing as saying minus 8. So now let's go through and combine our like terms and see what happens. It looks like this is the only cubed term, so we'll bring that down. So that's x cubed, and we'll cross it out so we don't accidentally reuse it. Now let's look at our squared terms. We have negative 3x squared plus 2x squared, and it looks like that's it. So negative 3x squared plus 2x squared is minus x squared. We'll cross those out. We have positive 6x minus 6x, so that goes away. And then we have finally positive 12 minus 8 is plus 4. And so we end up with x cubed minus x squared minus 4. Does this match our original dividend? Yes, it does. And so we know definitively that our quotient, our answer from the synthetic division, is correct. So that's why I would really recommend, if you have time on your test, check yourself, because if you don't end back with what you started with, then you know something went wrong in your synthetic division and you have the opportunity to find your mistake. But there's number 11, our final answer, x squared minus 3x plus 6 minus 8 over x plus 2.